Jump scares are a lie. That sudden boom from the screen? That's not what really scares you. It's a distraction. It's a magician's classic misdirection, making you look over here while the real trick is happening somewhere else. You think you're afraid of the loud noise or the monster that flashes on screen. But you're wrong. We're about to uncover the lie behind the jump scare and reveal what you're actually afraid of. The deep, primal, and very real fear of the unknown that sticks with you long after the credits roll. The anatomy of a cheap jump scare. Let's be honest, you know the scene. You're watching a horror movie. The hero, who for some reason has wandered off from the group, decides the smartest thing to do is check out a weird noise in a creepy, dark basement. The music gets intense, then cuts to a silence that's so quiet it's almost deafening. The character leans in, closer, and bam! A cat screeches and leaps out from behind a stack of boxes. The whole audience jumps, shares a nervous laugh, and just like that, the tension is gone. You were startled, sure, but were you scared? This is the classic cheap jump scare. It's a cinematic cattle prod, a lazy trick that's been so overused it's become a joke. It works by hijacking a purely physical reaction, the startle reflex. This is a survival mechanism baked into our DNA. A sudden loud noise or a quick movement triggers our brain's alarm system, the amygdala, which screams, "Danger," before we can even think about what's happening. It's a biological shortcut to a physical jolt. In the hands of a lazy filmmaker, it's nothing more than a cheap trick. The problem is, these scares are emotionally empty. The cat in the basement, the friend tapping the hero's shoulder, a bird hitting a window. These moments have nothing to do with the actual threat of the story. They don't build dread. They just pop the tension balloon. It's the movie equivalent of someone just shouting "boo" in your ear. You jump. You might even be annoyed, but the feeling disappears almost instantly. There's no lingering terror, no psychological stain, because the scare wasn't about anything. It was a lie. A false alarm built to poke your nervous system without ever engaging your mind. This is why so many horror movies feel like a boring ride with predictable jolts. The overuse of cheap scares creates a pattern. Quiet part, music sting, loud noise, repeat. You become conditioned, not terrified. You start bracing for the next jolt instead of getting lost in the atmosphere. The scare loses its power because it's not connected to anything real. It's a quick sugar rush of adrenaline that leaves you feeling empty and, frankly, a little cheated. But that's not the whole story. To understand what truly scares us, we have to look past the bang and into the terrifying silence that comes before it. The real fear. The unknown. H.P. Lovecraft, one of the masters of horror, wrote, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown." This one idea is the foundation of all truly effective horror. It's not the monster itself that gets under our skin. It's the idea of the monster. It's the shape you can barely see in the dark, the noise from a room you thought was empty, that chilling feeling that you're being watched by something you can't see. Think about Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. The movie is a masterclass in building dread, not with a bunch of jump scares, but with a heavy, suffocating atmosphere. Take those long, unnerving shots of Danny riding his tricycle through the giant, empty hallways of the Overlook Hotel. The sound is the scariest part. The jarring shift from the loud rumble of wheels on the wooden floor to the muffled quiet of the carpet and back again. Nothing jumps out. No monster shows its face. And yet, the tension is almost unbearable. Why? Because Kubrick uses the space, the sound, and the hotel's architecture to feed fear of the unknown. The long, symmetrical halls seem to go on forever, filled with a sense of evil potential. We have no idea what's around the next corner, and our imagination, sparked by the hotel's sinister past, starts filling that void with things far worse than anything Kubrick could ever show us. Or look at Ridley Scott's Alien. For most of the movie, the Xenomorph is like a ghost. We see glimpses. A tail, a shadow, but its full form is kept hidden. The crew, and us with them, are being hunted by something they can't comprehend. The real horror isn't the creature, it's the not knowing. It could be anywhere. In the vents, around the next corner. The movie weaponizes the ship's maze-like design, turning every dark hallway into a potential tomb. The most terrifying moments come from silence and anticipation, like the slow beep of a motion tracker, getting faster and faster, signaling a threat that's getting closer, but is still unseen. This is what some psychologists refer to as our fear of an unseen thing. It's the threat we can feel but can't see. Our brains are wired to solve puzzles, to identify patterns. When we're given incomplete information, especially about a potential danger, our imagination goes into overdrive to fill in the blanks. And our own imagination is always our worst enemy. It knows our personal fears better than any filmmaker. By hinting at a threat without revealing it, a director tricks our own minds into becoming the engine of our terror. The monster we create in our heads will always be scarier than the one made of latex and CGI. This is where the true art of horror is found, not in startling us with what's there, but in terrifying us with what might be. How jump scares lie to us. So, if the real power is in the unseen, does that mean every single jump scare is bad? Not at all. And this gets us to the main point. The jump scare is a lie. But like any good lie, its power comes from the bit of truth it's built on. A truly great jump scare doesn't create fear. It releases it. The jolt is just the explosive punctuation at the end of a long, terrifying sentence written with dread. The fear was already coiled up inside you, tightened by minutes of masterful tension. The scare is just the breaking point. There is no better example of this than the famous nurse's station scene in The Exorcist 3. Director William Peter Blatty gives us what should be a boring moment. We watch a nurse doing her nightly rounds from one single, static, wide shot down a long hospital hallway. The camera doesn't move for what feels like an eternity. The silence is deep, broken only by the normal, distant sounds of a hospital at night. A phone rings. A security guard walks by. The nurse hears a faint noise from a patient's room and goes to check it out. The sheer normalness of the scene is what makes it so terrifying. Blatty holds the shot for so long that we start to get hyper-aware. We know how horror movies work. A shot this long, this quiet, has to be leading to something. We start scanning every shadow, every doorway, turning the empty space into a canvas for our own anxiety. Then, Blatty gives us a fake-out. The nurse gets startled by a doctor who jolts awake. It's a small jump, meant to make us think the tension is over. We exhale. We feel safe. And that's the misdirection. As the nurse walks back to her station, with our guard now down, the real threat appears from a doorway we hadn't noticed. A figure in white, moving with terrifying speed, holding a giant pair of shears. The scare, when it hits, is earth-shattering. But its power doesn't come from the figure in white. It comes from the 3 minutes of agonizing, unbroken tension that came before it. It comes from how Blatty expertly built dread, released it with a false alarm, and then struck when we were most vulnerable. The jump scare was a lie. The truth was the patient, terrifying dread that made it possible. Let's take another classic, Jaws. Steven Spielberg famously had problems with his mechanical shark, which forced him to only suggest its presence for most of the film. This technical problem became the movie's greatest strength. The real terror of Jaws is what you don't see. But when Spielberg finally uses a jump scare, it's a masterpiece. Hooper is underwater, looking at Ben Gardner's wrecked boat. The vibe is eerie, but he's just investigating. We're focused on the details, the hole in the hull, the tooth stuck in the wood. Our attention is focused. And then, as Hooper looks up, a severed head floats out of the hole. It's a heart-stopping moment. But again, It works so well not just because a head suddenly appeared. It's the payoff for everything that came before it. We've spent an hour being terrified by an invisible threat. We've seen what it can do. Our fear of the shark is already massive. So when this piece of human carnage, a direct result of the unseen monster, pops out, it's a grotesque confirmation of our worst fears. The jump scare works because it's not just a random jolt. It's a gut punch that serves the story and its themes. It's more than a scare. It's a crucial story beat, connecting to real-life fears. This manipulation of the unknown isn't just a clever movie trick. It works on us so well because it taps into the very core of human anxiety. The reason a dark room in a movie feels so threatening is the same reason we were afraid of the dark as kids. Darkness, by its nature, is an unknown. It robs us of our sight, the sense we rely on most to spot danger. In that darkness, any threat could be hiding. Our evolutionary programming screams at us that we're vulnerable, that predators could be closing in unseen. Horror films hijack this ancient instinct. The unseen threat in the film becomes a stand-in for the unseen things in our own lives. The dread we feel watching a character walk down a dark hallway is a mirror of the real anxiety we feel about an uncertain medical test, a shaky financial future, or just the fear of what tomorrow might bring. These are the monsters that haunt us every day. Huge, shapeless threats we can't see or control. We worry about sudden accidents, unexpected illnesses, devastating losses. These are the jump scares of real life, the shocking moments that can turn our world upside down without any warning. When we watch a horror movie, we're basically running a controlled simulation of facing these anxieties. The fear of the unknown on screen is a tangible metaphor for the existential dread we all carry. That empty hallway in The Shining isn't just a hallway. It's a future we can't predict. The invisible entity in Paranormal Activity isn't just a ghost. It's the embodiment of a threat we can't understand or fight. The film gives our free-floating anxiety a temporary, monstrous shape. And this is where the release, the catharsis, comes from. In the movie, the unknown eventually becomes known. The monster is revealed, the threat is confronted, and often, the hero finds a way to fight back. When the jump scare finally hits and the unseen thing leaps out, there's a jolt, but it's often followed by a weird sense of relief. The source of our dread is no longer an abstract idea. It's a real enemy that can be fought. This process lets us experience the full cycle of fear, from crippling anxiety to confrontation and resolution, all in a safe space. It's a way to vicariously face our deepest fears and come out the other side, shaken, but okay. The horror film doesn't just scare us. It lets us practice being brave. This link between on-screen horror and real-world anxiety is fascinating, and it makes me wonder, what movie scene for you best captures that pure, unbearable tension of not knowing? Was it a scene that didn't even have a jump scare? Let me know in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to read about the moments that created that perfect, lingering sense of dread for you. And if you enjoy breaking down the mechanics of horror and film, think about subscribing for more videos like this one. Ultimately, the jump scare is a paradox. At its cheapest, it's a hollow, artless jolt that means nothing. It's a loud noise pretending to be fear. But in the hands of a master, it becomes something more. It becomes the final, critical piece in a complex machine of terror. It is the lie that reveals a deeper truth. The power of a scare is never about how loud the sound is or how fast the cut is. It's about the quality of the silence that came before it. It's about the masterful buildup of suspense, the weaponizing of our own imaginations, and the tapping into our most basic human fear, the fear of the unknown. That is the engine that drives all great horror. The jump scare is just the moment that engine finally, terrifyingly, redlines. So the next time you jump in a movie theater, ask yourself, was it the loud noise that scared you, Or was it the terrifying silence that came before it?